Welcome into War Up on the WPIAL. Greg Warnock, Jeff Upson with you here, recapping the AA WPIAL championships. Brackets are also already out for the Southwest Regional Tournament. I know we're 2 weeks away from that, but we can talk a little bit about that. We'll obviously preview that more a little bit next week. But also we have AAA sections coming up this week in the forefront. So a lot to cover here today, plus a special guest coming up as well. So, Jeff, let's dive right into the AA WPIAL championships, and some surprises, some guys not able to go due to injury, so we'll cover all of that. 106 pounds, I think the biggest surprise was Joseph Longy of Mount Pleasant not able to go this week, broken hand during the week, so the number 2 seed at 106 out of the tournament, and that opens up a spot for Sean Robertson of Fort Cherry to make it to the final. But the story here is Parker Senapal of Burgestown, just a dominant performance, falls in the first period throughout to win a WPIAL championship.
Yeah, I mean, there wasn't a lot of surprises here other than Long Guy being out. Parker Senapal just dominated. 2 falls going into the finals, an injury default in the semifinals, and then a fall in the first period. So he didn't make it out of the first period. He was very dominant here at 106, and looking at the Southwest Regional bracket, you know, he's definitely one of the top guys in that region, but I don't know how the WPIAL is going to fare outside of him because there's a lot of tough guys not from District 7 here.
Yeah, I mean, District 7 not particularly strong here in 106 pounds. Longy would have been, I think, another guy who probably wouldn't be able to make it to Hershey, but outside of that, I mean, Robertson potentially has a slight chance to maybe sneak into that 5th or 6th spot, but I just don't really see it. I mean, I think Parker Senapal is definitely one of the best in the state, so I'm excited to see him wrestle next week and mix it up with the guys from District 5 and District 6. But outside of Senapal, I'm not sure. District 7, like I said, it's not really deep here at 106.
No, I mean, and if you look at the bracket where he's at, he's at the top. Mason Beatty from Mount Union's also there on the top half, but I see him get into the finals without much of an issue. Corey Walls is there as well from Tyrone. He's a junior, so a little bit older, but still, I think he's on the good side of the bracket there. And I think on the bottom half, you got Easton Mull from Chestnut Ridge, who's pretty tough, and Jacob Sombrotsky of United, who's also tough. But I think Parker's just been wrestling so tough as of recently that I think it's his to lose, to be honest with you.
113 pounds. The biggest surprise, I think, came whenever Cooper Hornack of Burrell decided to wrestle up to 120 pounds. They've been wrestling 113 at times throughout the postseason in the team portion, but he decides to go up to 120 for individuals. So that opens the door at 113. And Jack Cazales of Quaker Valley comes into this as the favorite. But I got to tell you, Jeff, Jack Cazales finishes in 4th place, injury defaults out of the 3rd and 4th place match. He just did not look like himself. Wasn't as aggressive, wasn't attacking. Colin Bartley of Laurel, he is your champion. He wins over Seth Burns 5-2 in the final. Burns had a big win over Cazales 3-2 in the semis to get there. But a big tournament for Colin Bartley, and then I guess a disappointing finish for Jack Cazales.
Yeah, and I don't think Cazales is quite 100% right now, unfortunately, and I think that obviously showed with him losing to Seth Burns 3-2. Cazales is a guy who I think 100% healthy, he's winning that bracket, but I think he's just trying to advance through and get through to the Southwest Regional and then the state tournament to have that week off. Colin Bartley, though, I mean, he's had a great season thus far as a junior. You know, he had a couple big wins. He had that win over Giovanni Beatrice from Derry in the semifinals, but then to beat Seth Burns 5-2. I'm excited to see how the WPIAL does at 113 pounds because it's better than 106, but you don't have, with Cazales not being kind of the top dog in top shape, I don't know if you have anybody who's really going to push some of those bigger guys like Landon Bainey from West Branch or Lucas Five from Baldigo area or Brock Holderbaum from Chestnut Ridge. Seth Burns from West Green, I think he's like 18-10. So, I mean, he has a tough match his first round against Ty Bissinger from Central. So, you win the WPIAL, and yet or you get second in the WPIAL, and here you are like, hey, am I going to make it out of the first round of the Southwest region? So Landon Baney, I think, is the guy to beat here at 113. He's a returning state medalist. He's up from 106 from last year. Brock Holderbaum is a junior. He's had a lot of experience for Chestnut Ridge. But Colin Bartley, I think the sky's the limit for him on the bottom half. The question I have is, can Jack Cazales, can he get healthier? Can he get better in order to make some noise? Because outside of that first round matchup with Logan Rumberger from Tyrone, he's going to run right into Brock Holderbaum should he win that. So, and we're going to talk about this when we talk about Gavin Suika. The goal is to advance to the semifinals, get into that top medal round, so that way you can advance to the state tournament. So if he beats Brock Holderbaum, makes it the semis, maybe he gives it a go with Bartley, or maybe he just defaults out. I'm not sure, but 113 is going to be an interesting weight just from the Southwest region perspective.
Yeah, because Alice's health is going to be a big question mark to really, I mean, that could really upset the apple cart, right? Because knocking off Rumberger, who had a big win, obviously, over Basinger, then you have Holderbaum. If you pull two upsets there, if you're Cazales, that really it changes the bracket completely. And when you look at Seth Burns, finishing as a WPIAL runner-up, a lot of people, I think, forget, wrestling last year as a freshman in a shortened season. He had a good run at 106 pounds. I mean, he challenged. He was in there with Cooper Hornack, Jack Cazales, Parker Senapal last year. So, he had a tough weight class. He battled those guys throughout the season. So I think his record may not be quite indicative of, how good he is, but, definitely, pulling the upset over Cazales was huge. But the question is, if he wins that first one, I think it's realistic that he's in the top six because, from there, I think a semifinal appearance is likely, whoever wins that first match.
Yeah, you're not wrong about that, because should he win against Bissinger, I think he can get to the semifinals. Elijah Mills from Everett is the second out of District 5. I think he wins that match. So, he made out like a bandit, in my opinion, because he's really going to set himself up nicely here to be away from a guy like Landon Baney, or even a rematch with Giovanni Beatrice. Like that's just a good place in the bracket. Again, the question mark for me is Jack Cazales. He beats Logan Rumberger from Tyrone, a freshman. Then you have Brock Holderbaum from Chestnut Ridge. What do you do there, right? I mean, you get that win. Now you're in the semifinals. Cazales and Holderbaum, I mean, a healthy Cazales, I think, beats him, but now you're thinking, okay, where's this going to go? What's it going to do? And if Cazales loses that, now he's going to drop down and have to fight and win quite a few more matches in order to advance on to Hershey.
Yeah, and one of those, I mean, you look at just that quarter set, right? I mean, if Bartley, Lucas Fye, Jack Cazales, and Brock Holderbaum are all in the quarters, one of those guys isn't going to Hershey.
Right.
So that becomes a tough match for Cazales. He's got to win one. Between either beating, first he's got to beat Rumberger, but if he does that, he's got to beat Holderbaum, or he's going to have to beat Bartley or Fye. So, he's got to do it somewhere in order to advance to Hershey. Not quite as easy to get into that top six and get to Hershey as it is to get in that top 8 to get here to the Southwest region as a top tier wrestler.
Right.
So we'll see how it all plays out. 120 pounds, the two returning WPIAL champions and state medalists decide to go battle. Chris Vargo of Bentworth, he drops down from 26 to 20. Cooper Hornack goes up from 13 to 20, and they were on a collision course. Hornack had a tough matchup with Logan Ritchie at Quaker Valley in the semis, but got to the final. And there it was a great matchup between these two, but Vargo just gets it done, wins 5-0. It was an impressive performance from Vargo on top, being able to ride Hornack out not only for the second period, but he got a reversal and then 3 near fall points late. And you look at Hornack, he's going to have to figure out a way, if he wrestles Vargo again, to get out from underneath or pick up takedowns. Because if he can't get out from underneath the Vargo, he's got to find a way to be able to get it done on his feet. But Vargo, a very impressive 5-0 win for the WPIAL title.
Yeah, and I wasn't surprised that either one of these guys were here at 120. Vargo had wrestled 120 for the last couple weeks. He wrestled against Cohen Baney from Baldigo area in the Ultimate Warrior finals. He lost that one in a late flurry. It was a really good match, and we could see that one again next week at the Southwest Regional Tournament. But Cooper Hornack, he had wrestled 113 at the Powerade Tournament. I think coming down was really hard for him. It looked like from watching his weigh-ins that he was planning on coming back down to 13, but then at some point it was, hey, I'm going up to 120. So really good bracket here, obviously at 120, not only in the WPIAL but also in the Southwest region. Are you surprised that Dylan Slovic from Burgettstown gets the third place here? He beats Logan Ritchie. Tyler Clark takes fifth. I thought Slovic had a good tournament. He's 29-14. Burgettstown has a good schedule, but beats Tyler Clark from Fraser, and then bounces back in the wrestlebacks to beat Logan Ritchie by injury default. But still, I was impressed by him finishing top 3 here at the WPIAL tournament.
Yeah, definitely had a good run, did Slovic, to get in that top 3. Yeah, Logan Ritchie obviously defaulting. He got his win to get to 3rd and 4th. And Ritchie, he battled Hornack. Hornack obviously was a superior wrestler in that semifinal, but, getting some near falls late. But Ritchie wrestled tough. I mean, we'll see if he's how he is, bouncing back, due to some injury as well. So, but I think you look at where they're at in the bracket. I mean, this is a loaded 120-pound weight class. You mentioned Cohen Baney and Chris Vargo, maybe in a collision course of 1-2 as far as the seeds, but you got Ross Stahl in that weight, Trevor Donaldson, and then obviously Cooper Hornack as well. So for guys like Dylan Slovic and Logan Ritchie, they're gonna fight and claw just to try to get a 5th or a 6th place finish, and it's gonna come out right away. I mean, Logan Ritchie's got a tough one with Nick Kudrit of Phillipsburg Osceola. He's got to win that match. I mean, that's the one he's got to get right out of the gates if he wants to be going to Hershey.
Yeah, Kudrit was second out of District 6. And like you said, 120, there's landmines everywhere here. Colton Shunk from Penns Valley is also a guy I'm not sleeping on against Cooper Hornack. They have very similar styles. They're both kind of long, a little bit lankier, wrestle tough from top. So that to me is a good first-round matchup. But like you said, on that top half, Cohen Baney is the guy, but that winner, Cooper Hornack, I expect to get out to the semifinals, but him and Cohen Baney should be a good match should that happen. Trevor Donaldson from Myersdale, again, not sleeping on him at all. And you look in Ross Dahl, so you have 3 returning state medals here, I believe, with Cohen Baney, Cooper Hornack, Ross Dahl, and Chris Vargo. I don't know if that's at 3 or 4.
That's 4, yeah.
Ross Dahl is he's the guy who's 27-4 as a senior. Those Chestnut Ridge guys know how to wrestle, returning state medals. Chris Vargo, again, we could see him and Cohen Baney again in the finals at 120 pounds. That one would be a real treat because that was a lot of fun in the Ultimate Warrior finals there. So, but overall, like you said, for the WPIAL, Logan Ritchie gets that first win. Okay, now he's in a much better position. You look at some of the other guys, like I said, Cooper Hornack, Dylan Slovic. Slovic, I think, can win his first match, and then that obviously sets him up in the quarterfinals with Cohen Baney. But again, it allows him that opportunity to wrestle back because we take a few to the state tournament, right? So there's going to be some spots outside of our big guns that are going to make it to Hershey. It's just a matter of who falls where in the bracket, right? That's always the case. Win in the championship round, you're better off in the wrestlebacks, not run into a hammer who gets beat in the quarterfinal, semifinal.
Yeah, for Slovic, he's got to definitely get that first win just to be able to drop down, and he'll have to beat Hornack or Donaldson to get to the state tournament. When you look at Ritchie, meanwhile, he beats Kudrit, then if he wrestles Ross Dahl, regardless of that match, let's say he loses that one, then he's going to have to beat a guy like AJ Chilcote from Mount Union just to be able to get to the state tournament. So things that aren't impossible by any means. Definitely, something that these two guys could pull off, and the WPIAL could have a strong showing here at 120. 126 pounds. This is the weight class that kind of got threw upside down a little bit because of the fact that you have Chris Vargo down at 120. Gavin Suika is able to get the top seed from Burgettstown, but tell you what, Jeff, he comes out before his very first match. And we talked about this on the show on Monday. Is he going to wrestle enough just to be able to advance? And I'll tell you what, the kid was limping before he even started his first match. That's how much, pain he's in. And in talking to Joey Vigilante, I had mentioned, like, hey, did you think about maybe just kind of having him wrestle on one leg, for the team part, just to not give up bonus in certain matches? Like, he couldn't even wrestle on his knees. Like, that's how bad,
Wow.
it was. I mean, he's got a fracture in his foot. But he tried to give it a go, and he picks up 3 victories on Friday. He gets 2 falls and a decision. Saturday, he just couldn't give it a go. Just, it was just too much for one day. But, hey, he did what he had to do, get to the semifinals, defaults out so he can advance to the to the Southwest region. So he finishes in 6th place. That opens up the door for Dylan Bruce. And I thought the top half of this weight class was where the top talent was. I mean, Dylan Bruce and Brandon Cruel both in the quarterfinal matchup. Bruce wins there, but then Dylan Bruce gets the win in the final over Timmy Cafrelli at Southside, and Cruel comes back for 3rd.
Yeah, this was, I mean, we knew that Gavin Suika was severely injured, and should he wrestle, he probably was only going to try to get to the semifinals. And getting 2 falls quickly, and then beating a tough Gavin McCrae from Freedom, a freshman, 7'4", with 1 foot essentially. That tells you a lot about his fortitude and his drive to move forward and wrestle hard. Dylan Bruce, on the other hand, my gosh, a senior who's also experienced some of his injuries throughout his career and his season. He has a huge win over Brandon Cruel from Quaker Valley, a guy who I'm pretty high on. He majors him 12-4. Very impressive win there. Gets the injury default to make it to the finals, but then wins another one over Tim Carfilli, who I thought on the bottom half you had Bryce Rodriguez there, you had Davis Stepp there. There was some guys there that I thought were going to push the pace, and Davis Stepp, he was 2-1 with Carfilli in the quarterfinals. So, and then Carfilli needed an overtime 9-7 win over Rodriguez. So that bottom half was super wide open. And for Bruce to come out on top here, if he's wrestling healthy and he's wrestling like he does in the WPIAL tournament, it's going to be fun to watch him in a little bit more wide open 126 in the region. Again, much like Cazares down at 113, my question is, how healthy can Gavin Suika be, right? You have a time to rest. You have time to come back, get healthy, but can you advance on, right? Because that's the goal, because you have a week off then between then and the state tournament. So now all of a sudden you can rest up even more. How's that going to affect him? And should that get him to the state tournament? I don't know. I mean, if you can make it to the state tournament with a fractured foot, like essentially a broken foot, that's pretty damn impressive in my opinion.
Yeah, no doubt about it. And I mean, he's in the top half of the bracket, where he's going to have a tough one coming out of the gates with Hunter Forsolini from Forest Hills. Wins that, though. A match with Timmy Cafrelli of Southside, which, is 100% healthy. Suika wins that match, but yeah, he could still battle Cafrelli. I mean, you look at Suika, he's got to win 2 matches, and he can be able to advance to Hershey.
Yeah, I mean, like you said, you have to make it to that semifinal, and looking at the top half, Trevor Husick from Tussey Mountain is your top seed out of District 5. He's great. He's good, but again, not a hammer by any means. He's not Jackson Arrington, right? That bottom half, you have Trent Hoover, who I've been super impressed with this year. Got to see him a lot from Penn Cambria. Only a sophomore, has 28 wins on the season. He's on the bottom half, but I think he's got a pretty darn tough road. Gavin McCrae right out of the gate. Likely going to see Brandon Cruel in that quarterfinals. Not a guy I want to see, because Cruel, man, he's when he's on. And then you're either going to have, in my opinion, a Dylan Bruce, Bryce Rodriguez, or Kobe Burkett. And all 3 of those guys are dangerous. Bruce in the quarterfinals against a Rodriguez or Burkett, that's a really tough match. So for Suika's sake, I think he's on a good side of the bracket to make it to the semifinals and potentially punch his ticket to the state tournament. So, but again, where where's this all going to shake out? Carfilli, he makes it to the semifinals. Okay, now all of a sudden, where are we at in the wrestlebacks, and who's going to have to get through who in order to make it to Hershey? It's going to be interesting because Trent Hoover and Trevor Husick are tough, but they're not locks, so to speak. I would say some other weights, there's two clearly favored wrestlers moving forward. 126 is just not that. Both are beatable. Suika 100% healthy. I think he's the guy here at 126. Unfortunately, that's just not the case.
Yeah, he probably is the guy in both the WPIAL and the Southwest region, and definitely a tough break for him for a number of ways, right? I mean, the team portion, Burgestown missed him a lot, and now here for individuals, a chance to be a WPIAL and Southwest region champ. But I mean, it is what it is. He'll do his best to give it a go. I mean, to get where he was, not even be able to walk and in a walking boot to at least getting to the Southwest region is impressive. What can he do with 2 weeks off? I think for some of these guys in WPIAL, which we'll talk about, you talk about Casales and Suika already. The fact that the Southwest region isn't this coming weekend is huge because now they get the time to rest up. Now you don't get much time from the region to the state tournament, right? Because you're wrestling on Saturday, then you're right back at it on Thursday. So you're not even getting a full week. But at that point, I mean, you want to finish as high as possible, right? Where this, you could come into this as a 5th or a 6th seed or 5th or 6th place winner and still be able to get in the top 6 into the state tournament. So it's good timing, I think, for the WPIAL and how it's spaced out.
Did you feel like there was a lot of injury defaults or more defaults this year than there had been in years past? Because I certainly felt like there was a lot more. And I wonder how much that plays into a factor that, unlike the last, 10 years, I feel like it's been, that the Southwest region goes right into the region and then they have a break before states. I wonder how much of that played into, hey, we have essentially 10 days off before we actually have to get back on the scale and wrestle. So it seemed like there was just more injury defaults here than there have been in years past. Would you agree?
There were an absolute ton, and I think it's the fact that they took the top 8. In years past, it went from 5 to 6 to 7, now 8 wrestlers advancing. So I think the combination of how many advance, but as well as the fact that this being 2 weeks away, guys were like, hey, if I can at least advance on, then I'm going to be wrestling in 2 weeks, and I'll take my shots of wherever they put me in the bracket. It's, hey, if you're unhealthy, I mean, if you're feeling well or not doing well on the health side of things, why not do what you're doing? So I don't blame a Casales or a Suika for injury defaulting if you're banged up.
Right. I mean, because time essentially is what you need, right? You need time for your body to heal. But what I hear from you is that you want the sectional tournament back. Is that what that's what I'm interpreting from the message you're sending? Is that what?
No, I think you have that interpretation 100% wrong.
Oh.
Yeah. So. Okay. Your camera must not be working today, and maybe your ears aren't working either. But yeah, no.
Wow.
The section tournament, no, that we can get into that, but I mean, I think this was great, honestly, having a WPIAL tournament. Now Friday there were a lot of mismatches, which is going to happen regardless of whether you have a section tournament or one big WPIAL tournament.
Yeah.
One kind of feedback I would take is that they seeded the top 8, and I think they just kind of threw it probably into the Flow Arena for random draw. You had some guys who first match had to wrestle a top seed like a Rune Lawrence or a Grant McKay, or Dayton Pitts or whoever, as opposed to, and then maybe the person that Rune Lawrence would wrestle next had a bye. Let that kid underneath wrestle that kid, and so that they don't come out right away with knowing they're going to lose to Rune Lawrence.
Yeah.
That would probably be the only, maybe, have the top 4 seeds and make sure they always get the buys, because if it's about making sure some of these kids get 2 quality matches, don't feed them into the lion's den for one of their matches. That'd probably be my only feedback. Other than that, I thought it was great. I thought, this is exactly how it should go. You're taking the top 8 out of the WPIAL, so there's really no need to have a back-to-back days of section and WPIAL tournament.
Right. No, I agree with you.
On to 132 pounds. Your champion. So we got brothers who were WPIAL champs. Joey Senapal of Burgestown gets his first WPIAL title, matching brother Parker as he wins 6-2 over Kyle McCullum. Senapal just looked great throughout the tournament. He had a big win over Peter Chacon, 6-0 in the semifinals to get to that final. And from he just pushed McCollum. McCollum ended up getting a stall call. Didn't go up a stall point, but he was pushing it the whole time, and kind of forced McCollum into certain situations where he was able to get the takedown, and then obviously able to put him on his back late to win. Another reigning WPIAL champion was in this weight, 132 pounds, Nico Farah. But this was probably the upset of the Friday. Jeff was in the round of 32.
Yeah.
Farah wrestled Gabe Lilly at Beaver Falls and dropped a 10-3 decision. Farah had to wrestle all the way back and ended up finishing up in 5th place. So kudos to Farah for coming all the way back from that opening round loss. But that was probably the upset of the tournament on day one. But Senapal getting it done over McCollum, I think, is the story here at 132.
Yeah, so 100%. I was shocked when I saw that. I'm like, wait, where's Nico Farah at? And then it took me a while to figure out that he lost in that opening round. But again, kudos to him wrestling back, finishing in 5th place. You're right. The story here is Joey Senapal. My gosh, he's wrestled tough as of late. 2 falls to get into the semifinals, a major decision, 14-3, and then a really dominating performance over Chacon. I thought, like you said, him and McCollum, I thought, okay, this is going to be maybe a 1 takedown match. This is going to be, who's able to ride out, get an escape. And Senapal really controlled the pace of that match. So he's firing all cylinders at the right time, in my opinion. And I think that's really going to show next week at the Southwest region, or in 2 weeks, at the Southwest region. And it's going to be hard for me to break that. Chacon comes back to finish in 3rd place, beats Shawless 10-5. So I think that just shows how improved Senapal is just by dominating Chacon 6-0, and then Chacon comes back to take 3rd and a pretty tough weight. I thought this was a pretty loaded weight. I'm not saying it was 138, but it was close, and there was a lot of good wrestlers here that finished in the top 8.
So Senapal gets the number 2 seed at the Southwest region to Callum Bowman of Chestnut Ridge. McCullum's obviously on the top half with him. Marcus Gable is down on the bottom half with Senapal, among other wrestlers. What are your thoughts as they head in? Callum Bowman as a freshman, obviously great, right? Was he a state runner-up, I believe?
State runner-up to Brendan
as a
Winslow,
freshman.
Yep.
But he didn't look great as a sophomore in the postseason, Callum Bowman, but obviously a top seed here. So what kind of Callum Bowman are we getting here at 132?
As of late, he's wrestling like he was his freshman year when he won, made it to the state finals. Callum Bowman, he's a track, he does track as well. I think that's probably his best sport. I don't know if he won a state title in track, or he's really good cross country. And I think he's been wrestling really well as of late. So I think we see a Callum Bowman that is ready to go out there and wrestle hard. The only problem is he's on a very tough side of the bracket. Nico Farah, Jackson Matthews right out of the gate wrestle, which I think is going to be a really good opening round match. Winner likely gets Callum Bowman. Should he win that, I think he's probably going to get Kyle McCullum, a returning state medalist. Callum Bowman, not a return state medalist, right? So he's got to have his hands full, depending on who comes out from there. McCullum or even Ashton Sipes from Tyrone, who I think is I got to see him quite a few times this year as well. I think he's been wrestling really tough. The bottom half, in my opinion, Joey Senapal's, he's got it. Marcus Gable is good. He's down from 138, but he's just not. Joey Senapal is wrestling on a different level right now. So I think he probably is going to make it to the finals without too much of an issue, much like we saw last week. Chacon could end up beating a Gable. I really do believe that Chacon is capable of knocking off Gable, who was a state qualifier last year. George Campbell and Greg Shawless, also a good opening round match. But again, I think Joey Senapal is a shoe-in for the finals. I mean, I don't like saying that, but it's just the way the bracket is. And I think Callum Bowman's going to have his hands full with guys like McCullum, Farah, Matthews, Sipes, and some of those guys on the top half of the bracket. But I think the WPIAL should fare pretty well here.
138 pounds was a deep weight class going in. Rudy Brown was the top seed. Jamison Poclembo number 2. Ambrose Boni was 3, and Damon Michaels 4. And the question was, how was it all going to shake out, especially with Damon Michaels coming back into the picture, as you talked about, Jeff, on the show last week. Michaels gets the big win over Rudy Brown, 3-2 to advance to the final. Boni gets the win over Poclembo, 5-2. Poclembo returning WPIAL champion, and that set up a great matchup in the finals. Ambrose Boni was winning 1-0, ends up turning Michaels over and getting the fall late in that third period to win the WPIAL title. Poclembo of Mount Pleasant finishes in 5th place, and Rudy Brown of Burgerstown falls all the way to 6th. But 1 through 8, really all solid wrestlers here at 138.
I mean, what a bracket, right? I mean, my gosh, there was a lot of good wrestlers here. When a returning WPIAL champion with Poclembo finishes, in 3rd place, and then you have Rudy Brown down to 6th. Like, I understand why Rudy Brown got the top seed. He has a recent win over Poclembo, who's a returning WPIAL champion. But Damon Michaels was the kind of question mark here, right? How healthy is he as a sophomore? Hadn't wrestled a whole heck of a lot this year, just came into the lineup late. And he has a pretty tough road to get to the finals, right? I mean, he has to beat a tough Isaac Lisinski from Burrell, who's a freshman with 30 wins. He beats him 1-0. Knocks off Rudy Brown 3-2. And as you mentioned, very close to Boni, who's up 1-0, then it gets a turn. But to me, Boni is a guy who, he doesn't get a whole lot of, being from Central Valley and being that he didn't really have much of a season last year, only got, I think, 8 matches under his belt last year. I don't think he quite gets as much ink as he probably should. And, he had a great tournament. Not only did he have a really nice win over Poclembo, but he tech falled Matt Schulteis from Freedom, who's not bad. Controls the match with Poclembo, and then gets that fall over Michaels. Again, peaking at the right time is Ambrose Boni.
Yeah, he certainly is, and now he'll go into the Southwest region as the number 2 seed in this one, with Easton Toth sitting at the top.
Yeah, so if you look at the bracket here in 138 pounds in the Southwest region, Greg, I'm excited to see how it all plays out, because Toth on the top, he's on a very loaded top half, because you have Jamison Poclembo, you have Damon Michaels, you have Lucas Walk, you have Rudy Brown, and you have Chad Weiss from Tussey Mountain. So all very quality wrestlers. Toth is the guy who I think, coming into it is the clear favorite. Like, no doubt, I think he should be the top seed. On the bottom half, I think it gets a little bit easier, because you have Boni, but you have Jeffrey Pfeiffer from Bald Eagle, who's good, has had a few good wins, but also a couple head scratchers. Liam Cornetto is really tough. I've got to see him a few times, but that's a good matchup with Andrew Johnson. And Mason Wyant from Chestnut Ridge is 11-10, and he's your champion from District 5. So, for Boni, I'd like my chances here. I think you likely see Pfeiffer in that quarterfinal round. I think Lisinski can hang with Pfeiffer. I think that's going to be a good match, but I think Pfeiffer will probably end up winning that one. And then you look at who he's going to get in the semifinals. Mason Wyant, I think he beats him. Andrew Johnson, Liam Cornetto, I think he beats either one of those. So I obviously like where his draw is, as opposed to the top half, where you have landmines everywhere with Toth, Poclembo, Michaels, all on the top half, not to mention Rudy Brown and Chad Weiss from Tussey. So again, winning is important, and we see that here with the draws.
Yeah, and when you look at this whole bracket as a whole, outside of Toth from Forest Hills, to me, I think the WPL gets a number of guys on in this weight class. Boni, Michaels, Poclembo, could it be Lisinski, could it be Brown? I mean, Johnson. I mean, you name it. I think there's going to be several WPL guys here that advance to the state tournament.
Yeah, I agree, and here he is, the WPIAL, and he was the OW too. Let's not forget that he won
That's
the
right.
OW award here as well at Cannon Mac High School.
Yeah.
Ambrose, Boni, congratulations first and foremost on the Outstanding Wrestler Award and the WPIAL title. Has it sunk in yet as a WPIAL champion?
Yeah, I kind of sucked in later that night when I was like, geez, I'm actually a WPIAL champion, and I got a W on top of that. So it was a good experience.
Talk a little bit about your weekend. Obviously, you wrestled great in getting the WPIAL title, but it was a deep weight class, right? From Schulteis in the quarters to having a reigning WPIAL champion in Poclembo in the semis to a guy who was coming back from injury, up a couple of weight classes in Damon Michaels. So just kind of talk about your weekend and wrestling those guys and your kind of approach going into it.
So yeah, it was a really deep weight class. So I was excited to come on top of it, but yeah, just going every match, I just had to stay on my offense, stay on my game plan, and just not worry about who I'm wrestling. Just go out there, wrestle my pace, and yeah, just stay on top, stay on offense the whole time.
When you had that matchup against Poclembo in the semifinals, what did you see there that helped you kind of keep your pace and be able to come out on top in that one?
Well, I just starting off, I kind of got in a shot real quick, finished it, and right when I finished it, I was like, I just got to keep my pace up. It kind of slipped a little bit, but I went through the whole match and got the victory.
And obviously in that final against Damon Michaels, you were leading 1-0, doing a great job riding on top throughout that third period before finally getting that fall. Talk about your top performance. Is that something you worked on a lot? Continuing to ride and knowing how to not only ride but show you're not stalling and just be able to continue to ride those really good opponents.
Yeah, riding has proved well over the years for me. In my room, it's really I've been getting up to Quest lately, and up there, it's I got really good guys I got to try to hold down and stuff. So it's really helped me throughout. And my coach Jim really has always helped me, always telling me keep pressure forward, always moving them. So yeah, it really helped me this summer and this year.
It's funny because you have 31 wins on the season, 20 of them come by fall. So you're just pinning people left and right. In fact, I think you have one in 7 seconds, if I saw that correctly. Is that something hey, you're going out there and you're always looking for the fall and your strengths. Hey, I can turn this guy, I can pin him, like you did in the WPIAL finals here.
Yeah, everyone likes a fall. So if I have the opportunity to pin him, I'm gonna pin him right away. I'm always working for it. I'm always trying. My top game has got a lot better over the years. So yeah, I'm always trying to get that fall.
So last year, and correct me if I'm wrong, you only had 8 matches, right? So
yeah,
very shortened season. Talk about last year, what that was like for you, only getting those 8 matches and not being able to really compete at a level that you wanted to. That had to have been pretty difficult for you.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, it was real hard. I only got 8 matches in the season, cut my junior year short, and I was really excited going into it. But that just kind of just motivated me to. I got next year. I got to come back next year, ready to go, and perform. So yeah, it kind of helped me prepare for this WPIAL.
So your career, you were a regional qualifier both as a freshman and a sophomore. Last year, a shortened season. This year, 31 wins, 2 losses. And you look at your 2 losses, and one's to a AAA guy, Levi Donnell, who's one of the best in the WPIAL, and Chase Brandenburg from Carlton, that was up at 145. What did you take away from those 2 losses?
It really just it really helped me make sure that I didn't want to lose again, especially because for my weight plan it wouldn't let me get down to 38 yet. So right when I got 30, I was like, I'm not losing 38. I'm gonna show them at the top. It was hard when I lost that against Levi. He's a really good opponent, but it kind of just pushed me to be like, look, I gotta get in the room, gotta work. I can't let this happen anymore.
Yeah, and it looks like that's exactly how it panned out because those were early in the season. Donald was on the 10th and Brandenburg was on the 11th. So that's, the first weekend. And then you go on this streak and you have a good win over Parrish McFarland from Pottsville in the Tricata. And you had a couple really big wins, outside of the WPIAL this year. it seems like, not to jinx you, but you're peaking at the right time. Do you allude a lot of that to, the extra practices, going to Quest, and just kind of having the right mindset?
Yeah, extra practices. I'm trying to always get 2 practices in, or if I can't even go to practice, at least 2 workouts in a day. But yeah, it's over the summer, really been working hard and really been focused on this year coming to perform and show everyone who I am.
Talk about the team as a whole. Central Valley's got a couple tough guys. Don Lindsay, you have Brennan Morgan as well. But, Central Valley's not a team that most people think of as a powerhouse of wrestling, right? What has it been like in the room and kind of having those other guys around you that are wrestling hard and wrestling tough?
So yeah, in the room, it's really good that we have all guys that we started to get more guys that actually want to come in, work, and get better. And I'm kind of happy for that, because at the beginning when I first started, we didn't really have that many guys that wanted to come in and work and wanted to go on postseason and keep winning. So I'm really excited for that. We all been working hard this year, and we're just ready to perform.
Well, Ambrose, we really appreciate you joining us after your practice today to talk a little bit about your outstanding weekend. Congratulations on the WPIAL title, as well as the Outstanding Wrestler Award, and best of luck in 2 weeks as you head to the Southwest region.
Yeah, thank you.
Thanks,
Happy
Ambrose.
to be on here.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Thanks, Ambrose.
All right, bye.
Ambrose Boni of Central Valley kind enough to join us. And one note, Jeff, while we were chatting with Ambrose, thank you to Joey Vigilati. He let us know that 132 in the Southwest region has actually been redrawn. So St. Paul is the top seed and Bowman is the number 2 seed.
Really? So I wonder what the redraw was for that. I'm gonna have to look that up. Make some phone calls. But yeah, that changes things, right? That changes things a little bit. But regardless, I still think, you look at the brackets, regardless of whether it's Bowman at the top or St. Paul, I think both of them are on a collision course, but St. Paul's probably the favorite.
Yeah, and you know what? Either way, McCullum's on the other side, right? So
right.
for St. Paul, he's got both. No matter which way you draw it up, Bowman and McCullum are going to be on the opposite side of where he is. So to me, I don't know if it matters much of whether he's a 1 or a 2, because having those two on the other side is what's ideal for him to get to the easiest path, I guess, to get to the final. But thank you to Joey Vigilati for sending that information on. 145 pounds in the WPIAL, Jeff. The champion of the weight class was Sean Szymanski of Burrell. He defeats Chase Framelli of Jefferson Morgan 5-4 to win it. Chase Brandeborough of Carlinton, he actually suffered a shoulder injury. He was winning 2-0 in the quarterfinals over Ryan Seleshi of Fraser, and he actually injures his shoulder. It gets put on his back, gets pinned by Seleshi, who had a great tournament. Ryan Seleshi did, finishing in 3rd place over a tough Anthony Lankos of Burgestown, and also had a good tournament as well. But Chase Brandeborough injures his shoulder, does enough to wrestle on Saturday, wins his first match, and then defaults out. So he's an 8th place finisher and a tough 8th place draw for whoever gets him in the Southwest region. But the story here, obviously, Szymanski gets a WPIAL title. Framelli, Seleshi, Lankos, all good tournaments here to this past weekend.
Yeah, and despite the fact that Szymanski was your top seed here, I thought this was a wide open weight class for the most part, right? Chuck Perkins from Valley, I thought kind of was a little bit of a dark horse. He pins Tyler Debnar from Beth Center, which was a good win for him, and then Szymanski takes care of business against him. He just wrestled really hard all weekend, and you look at that bottom half with Brandenburg and Seleski, that those are two guys that have wrestled a few times this year. Framelli from Jefferson Morgan, again, had a 14-3 major over Lanco. So I thought he wrestled well, but again, getting through after injuries and advancing on, how healthy are you going to be, right? That's the question. You look at the bracket, and Brandenburg, who has a win over Ambrose Boni, which we just talked about, he draws Ryan Thomas, the 3rd place finisher out of District 5, and should he win that, he gets the undefeated top seed Ty Watson from Penns Valley, who's the top seed there. So Yeah, I mean, my gosh, it's you want to advance on, but it's tough when you got to draw somebody like that right out of the gate. So um, overall, though, 45 was a fun weight class. I thought overall because Seleshki comes back to take third as a freshman. I know Buck Watkins from Fraser is really high on him, and the way he's been wrestling, he has a nice win over Debnar, a guy who we had lost to earlier in the season. So he's clearly putting in the work. He's clearly getting to the point where he's priming for the postseason. So that shows when you have a tournament like that.
Yeah, absolutely. And when you look at the Southwest region, this is a deep weight class within the Southwest region because of the guys from District 5 and District 6. You have Ty Watson, you mentioned Noah Teeter as well on the bottom half of that bracket. Trevor Wyant of Chestnut Ridge is on the bottom as well. So Sean Szymanski coming in as the third seeded district champ. He's actually on that bottom half, with Teeter and Wyant. He's definitely got a challenging road. When you look at the top half, for a guy like Brandenburg, yeah, he goes into Watson. If he loses that match, he's going to have the loser of Austin Foster or Ryan Seleshki, which I think is going to be one of the better opening round matchups, Foster and Seleshki. So this weight classes, I mean, I'm interested to see what WPIAL wrestlers end up coming out of this one and how many, because I think WPIAL could get a few or they could only get one or two. This is one of those weights that's, to me, it's deep, it's open, at the same time, a couple of studs obviously, but it's deep.
Yeah, so I'm kind of on the same line of thinking with you. They're either going to get like one or two, or they're going to get four. It's going to be interesting to see how it shakes out because there's a couple guys there. Like I'd look at the best first round matches, and I honestly think 145 has the best first round matches. Austin Foster, Ryan Seleshki, right out of the gate is yes, sign me up. Seleshki, freshman who's peaking at the right time. Again, I mentioned he has some really good results over this year. He lost to Chase Formelli and Tyler Debnar early in the season, avenges both those losses, beats Formelli, and later beats him 3-2, then loses to him here in the WPIAL tournament, but peaking at the right time. So I'm looking at that first round match with Austin Foster, who's down from 152 to 45, was a state qualifier last year. Reese Wood from Tyrone, another super tough wrestler from Tyrone, coached by Quentin Wright, two-time national champion from Penn State. Chase Formelli, right out of the gate. Yes, that's a great matchup. Even you look at Devin Grubb from Huntington. I'm not looking past him against Sean Szymanski. Like that's not an easy first-round matchup for him. Even Chuck Perkins and Noah Teeter right out of the gate. I like it. Gage Halburn from Marion Center versus Anthony Lankos, another good one. So I really think 45 is going to be a pretty wacky weight class. I really do think there's going to be some results here that are going to be like, man, did that really happen? And did that guy actually wrestle back? So I wouldn't be surprised to see a guy like Seleshki make it top 4, depending on how things shake out for him. Ty Watson, clearly I think is the best, but everybody else kind of after that, it's open, man. And there's going to be a lot of those first round matches. Keep an eye on them because those are going to be indicative of how things are going, for those wrestlers and where they're going to finish in the region.
One quick note, Jeff, just to circle back to this because we keep doing so, but for the Senepal thing, they missed seeding points. So the Chacon win in the semifinals for Senepal gave him 10 extra seeding points, and that put him above Bowman.
Gotcha.
And that's how that got reshaped. So thank you, Joe.
And that's why they do it that way. They can redraw them at any time. So it's a good thing to get it right.
So on to 152 pounds, Justin Ritchie of Quaker Valley, a tough 3-2 win in the finals over Tyler Barish of Best Center to finish as the WPIAL champion. Joey Botten of Avonworth in third place over Isaiah Pisano of Hopewell, who almost knocked off Barish in the semis. Barish had to come back to win 8-7 in that one. And Eric Kovac, your fifth place finisher from Burgestown. Justin Ritchie, though, the WPIAL champ with a tough one in the final.
Yeah, so I thought Barish, he had been wrestling really well all season, 33-2 coming into the tournament, and I was fully expecting him to to be in the mix for a title there. And obviously he's a tiebreaker win away from a title. But you look at the depth here. I really like 152 from the WPIAL because 1 through 4 for sure are all going to push it. Kovac had a good tournament. Tristan Ice, Connor Johnson, not bad, but those top 4, I think are really going to push the pace in the Southwest region. You can see how close they are with Barish winning 8-7 over Pisano. Boughton, he's right there, beats Cade Brock. So I think Richie and Barish, that could switch. That could flip. They wrestle 10 times. It goes 5-5. So looking ahead at the Southwest region, obviously the goal is to be away from Jackson Arrington. Justin Ritchie is that. Like, he's on the bottom. He's away from Jackson Arrington. Jack Moore is also down there on the bottom half. 52 is a deep weight class just from, the amount of talent there, but the highly ranked wrestlers that are there. Jackson Arrington, obviously, head and shoulders above the rest of the field here. Joey Boughton up there with a guy like Luke Hughes from Phillipsburg, Osceola. I think that's a good match there. Barish, I think he has a pretty good draw considering he finished second. Obviously, you're on the top side with Jackson Arrington, but I think he gets to the semifinals, punches his ticket to Hershey. Richie, on the other hand, I like his draw as well. I think he's going to end up getting Jack Moyer in the semifinals, but that's a winnable match for him. So 52, I think the WPIAL, and I'm really curious to see how a guy like Boughton or Pisano wrestles back here to see if they can punch through to get to Hershey.
Yeah, even Eric Kovac for that matter as well. I mean, there's not outside of Arrington, obviously, you might as well mark him in ink for the title. But outside of that, I mean, I think Jack Moyer probably gets one of the top 6 spots. No one else here that's not in the WPIAL tells me like, hey, you're definitely a guy. So to me, I think there's up to 4 spots that WPIAL could claim, maybe even 5. I mean, who knows? But at least 4 that I think the WPIAL could claim here at 152.
Yeah.
160 pounds. The champion from Laurel in a dominant fashion was Grant McKay. He had falls and 1 default win as well to win the championship. Trevor Pettit, a best center, he gets pinned within a minute by Grant McKay. McKay just on another level right now, when it looked like Trevor Pettit might be as well, because Pettit pinned his way to get to the finals as well. But Pettit, again, McKay with the WPIAL championship. The one storyline here came from Friday night, Jeff, where DJ Slovic and Braden Welsh were wrestling in the quarterfinals, and Slovic in the first period shoots in on Welsh, drives him out of bounds. There's like a whole nother like smaller mat, to where the out of bounds line is, and then the table drove him not only out of bounds but through the table, and then there was like a metal railing behind it into that metal railing. So they had to DQ Slovic in that match. It was not flagrant, so he was able to return the next day, and he comes back for 5th. But Welsh, because of that, hits his head off the metal railing, unable to go. Fortunate for him, he's going to have 2 weeks, to heal up and be able to recover to come back. But Welsh unable to go from there. But that was one of the storylines from Friday night.
Any metal chairs or like barbed wire bats come into play in that, or just
none of that.
Just a table under. That sounds like a mess. And I saw some clips of that actually, and I was like, man, what are we doing here? And Welsh is a freshman who I thought is definitely capable of mixing it up with those guys. So, it's good that he's going to be able to wrestle back for Slovic. He's very fortunate that he's able to wrestle back and it's not flagrant, right? McKay's on a different level, as you mentioned. He's clearly, just on a different level. When you look at the rest of the field here, Christian Hirak from Derry, I thought had a phenomenal tournament, beats Damian Barr 4-2. Yes, he gets pinned by Pettit, but he comes back, beats Slovic 14-2. So again, not a easy guy to beat, and then beats Damian Barr again 3-1 in sudden victory. So really good performance by him. You look at the top 6 here, McKay all the way down to Welsh. These guys are all going to battle, at the Southwest region for sure in 2 weeks.
The problem here in the Southwest region is at 160 pounds, it is very good in the Southwest region. Obviously, you have McKay at the top, But from there, you have guys like Zeke Dubler, Ethan Heminger, Luke Moore of Chestnut Ridge. So a lot of talent across the Southwest region here at 160.
Yeah, I mean, unfortunately, you look at that, and there was an upset in the District 5 championship. Ethan Heminger from Somerset, he beats returning state medalist Luke Moore from Chestnut Ridge. So that puts Luke Moore up on the top half with Dustin Flynn. And I think you look at Braden Welsh, Dustin Flynn, if Braden Welsh is feeling good and healthy, I think he can win that match, no problem. But then you get the winner of Luke Moore, Damian Barr, right? And that's a tough match. Slovic, on the other hand, he gets rewarded with Andrew Weaver, who I think's a tough wrestler from Tyrone, but then Grant McKay on that top half. So I think Grant's going to make it to the finals without much of an issue whatsoever. Zeke Dubler is the guy who, I have circled as can he make it? Can he really push the pace and be that second best guy here in the weight class? Because you look at what he's been able to do this year, he's been very consistent, been very good. Trevor Pettit, on the other hand, he had falls all the way up to the finals. Can he kind of be that second best guy and keep it closer than he did last time, not get pinned in the first period? Heminger, on the other hand, he's a bully on the mat, man. He likes to go hard, and he likes to definitely get dirty a little bit. So maybe him and DJ Slovic can mix it up with some like brass knuckles and I don't know, like get some chairs involved too or something. So 160 is going to be a lot of fun. Even despite the fact that Grant McKay is the clear favorite, it's going to be fun to see who battles for those other spots.
Yeah, you look at how the bracket shapes up. If Welsh can come back and wrestle well, beats Flynn, Slovic beats Weaver, those two guys could be wrestling for a shot to go to Hershey, which I think would kind of be fitting for the way things ended this past weekend because of the way the losers bracket would fall out, right? Both guys would be in the quarters, drop a match to McKay and Luke Moore, and then the way that consolation falls, those two realistically could be wrestling with one shot to get to Hershey. So that would be fitting. And I think Christian Hyrick, I mean, you mentioned Heminger had the big upset over Luke Moore, but you're right. Christian Hyrick had a great tournament, wrestled really well. Maybe not his best performance against Trevor Pettit, but he wrestled well. And can he pull an upset, over Heminger? I think that bottom half between Dubler, Pettit, Hyrick, and Heminger, it's definitely going to be interesting to see who comes out of that. 172 pounds, Rune Lawrence of Fraser is your champion. Does nothing but get 5 falls. And how about his day on Friday, Jeff? 3 wins in 26 seconds for Rune Lawrence. That's just incredible to have 28-second mat time in 3 matches. Mason Diamond of Quaker Valley finishes second. Mike Ewing of Washington in 3rd place.
I mean, I have to check. I want to find out if this is a record, but 3 matches, 5 seconds, 8 seconds, and 13 seconds. I mean, I don't know if there's anybody who's had – yeah, I mean, obviously people have had 5 and 8 second falls, but to have 13, 5, and 8 all, 3 in a row in the same tournament, I don't know if it's ever happened. Rune Lawrence is just, man, he's good. He's just, other than like Dayton Pitzer, I don't know if I'm more impressed with a wrestler and how able they are to just dismantle wrestlers. I mean, what he did to Nolan Lear, the number 2 guy in the state at Powerade, was just, he just toyed with him and pinned him in the first period, and he's not a guy like, Jermaine Woods from Avonworth, who's 5 and 13. He's a Division I recruit. He's a 2-time state medalist. So Rune Lawrence clearly on a different level. You look at the rest of the finishers here. Dimert, again, I was excited to see how he competed in this weight because Mike Ewing, I thought was a dark horse here to get through into the finals, and clearly he bounces back to finish 3rd. Aaron DeLuca as well. I like WPIAL's chances here, but it doesn't get a whole lot easier when you go to the Southwest region because you have a bunch of guys like Suds Dubler, Caleb Close, who's a super tough freshman from Baltimore area. It's just going to be, and not to mention Dan Moore from Chestnut Ridge. So there's going to be a lot of scrapping and fighting to get to those spots.
Yeah, the WPIAL not particularly deep here at this weight class. So falling into that plus the deep from District 5 and 6, could make it tough. I'm interested to see how Dimer and Ewing do. I think they're right on that edge to be able to make that 5 and 6 type spots. So it will be interesting to see how it all plays out here in 2 weeks. 189 pounds for the WPIAL. Patrick Cutchember of Quaker Valley, your champion, a 6-3 win over Noah Ganebus of Mount Pleasant. Ganebus had a big win over Cole Clark of Burrell, 3-1 to get to the final, and Cole Clark comes back for third.
Yeah, and Ganibus, he had a loss to Cole Clark, and obviously he's been limited this year with how many matches he can wrestle. He was 13-2 coming into the tournament, but tough win over Cole Clark, who he had lost to earlier. And then I thought he wrestled Cutchember tough too. I mean 6-3. I'm not saying he's right there with him, but he kept it close, right? Cole Clark, I thought, had a good tournament, bounced back, and finishes in third. Brendan Morgan, Ambrose Spanai's teammate from Central Valley, finishes in fourth. He's only a sophomore, but I like the way he's been wrestling thus far this year, 27-4 coming into the tournament. So, much like some of our other weight classes, Cutchember is the clear favorite here. But you look at the rest of the field in the Southwest region, there's some guys that I think can push the pace, but I don't think there's anyone that's really going to challenge him. Noah Foltz from Baldy area, he's good on the bottom half, winner out of District 6, but Grant Mathias from Berlin, 30-7. I like him, but I don't know if he's going to be able to push the pace with Cutchember. So overall, the top half, I think outside of Cutchember, pretty wide open. I could see a Brendan Morgan sneaking through to the semifinals. Ethan Kubat from Central Cambria has looked good at times this season, but not always the best performances for him. So Noah Foltz, again, one of those Baldigo area guys who just knows how to wrestle. They wrestle hard. They wrestle tough. Is he going to be able to get out to the semifinals, or is Ganebus able to sneak through? So I like the WPIAL's chances outside of Cutchember, but there's going to be some roadblocks to get there.
Yeah, I really like Brendan Morgan's where he's at in the bracket to be able to potentially get to the semifinal. He was actually battling an illness throughout this past weekend, so he was only able to go a couple of matches and weighed in on Saturday and was only able to wrestle one match. He decided to default to Cutchember just to see if he could get back into that third and fourth place match. Wrestled one and then defaulted out of the tournament. But he was battling some illness, so like you, I'm interested to see how he does here. But I think he's in a nice spot in the bracket to where he can finish in the top 6. Outside of obviously you have Cutchember and Ganebus and Clark down on the bottom half. So see how that certainly all plays out. 215 pounds, Dayton Pitzer of Mount Pleasant, your champion by fall through all his matches, I think as expected. Vitaly Daniels of Bentworth finishes in second place. He actually got put on his back by Anthony Govern early in the first period in the semifinals, gave up 2-2, and then just happened to reel off 19 straight points to win by technical fall. So Daniels, I think, got his scare out of the way, but he finishes in second. Govern comes back for third.
I mean, so this just shows how impressive Pitzer is, because Vitaly Daniels tech falls a very tough Anthony Govern from Southmoreland after getting put on his back, and then loses by fall to Dayton Pitzer in a minute 12. So, I mean, Pitzer, much like we talk about with Rune Lawrence, he's in a different galaxy, not just a different planet, not just a different solar system. He's in a completely different galaxy than the rest of the field here. So, no surprise there. Vitaly Daniels, the second best guy, I think, in the region too, to be honest with you. Anthony Govern finishes in third. I like his chances as well coming into the Southwest region. So I really, outside of Pitzer, it's pretty wide open. Kurt Bearjar from Forest Hills is good, but Anthony Govern can beat him. I really do think that. It's 215 is weird, man, in the Southwest region. I've talked with Paul Myers about this at length, and it's just like all these guys were beating each other. Like Ethan Norris from Bellwood Antis had a phenomenal District 6 tournament, 20-12, ends up getting to the finals, and all these guys have beaten each other up. Like they all have losses to each other. They all have wins over some guys where you're like, how did that guy win? It's one of those weight classes there. So Dayton Pitzer, clearly the guy, but I really think Vitaly Daniels, he's certainly the second best in my opinion here, and Govern's not too far behind.
We'll see how it all plays out. I even thought Landon Millward of Freedom had a good tournament. He's going to be one to watch. He challenged Govern in that 3rd and 4th place match. So if it is wide open, like you said, in District 6, and the District 5 maybe not as strong at 215 either, it would not surprise me if Landon Millward could even get into that conversation as well. 285 pounds. The big win for Joseph Baronic of Burgestown. He had lost 3 times to Cameron Carter Green prior to coming into the finals, but he picks up the 4-1 victory over Cam Carter Green to win the WPIAL championship.
Yeah, I mean, what a time to win that one, right? Because I think he wrestled 3 times this year, and one was an overtime loss, and a couple, they were all close. But for him to come out and get a win 4-1 over Carter Green is a big time win, because that has a lot of ramifications for where we go into the Southwest region. Now Cam Carter's on the top half with Matt Watkins from Tussey, who he knows very well. They wrestled a few years ago. So Baran, I mean, you look at the way this shook out. I mean, Colin Hill, I wasn't surprised to see 3rd, but 4 through 8 I think was anybody's, and it kind of finished out that way. But looking ahead to the Southwest region, Matt Watkins, one of the best in the state, no doubt. But Brandon Ewing from Tyrone's also up there on the top. I really like him, and I wouldn't sleep on him. Cam Carter Green, I think he can obviously get through the semifinals. Baranek has a pretty tough draw, in my opinion. He's on the bottom half with Cooper Lingenfelter from Bedford, Colin Hill from Laurel, Chase Klinger from Phillipsburg Osceola, who's not bad at all, and then Gunnar Singleton from Huntington. Those are a lot of guys there, all ranked top 10, have been ranked top 10 in the state. So it's it's heavyweight, like every year is going to be interesting, because there's not a clear-cut favorite. I think Watkins is the clear-cut, but outside of that, I think it's anybody's game.
Yeah, District 6 deep here at 285 pounds.
Yeah, very deep, yeah.
And with Watkins being a District 5, favorite coming into this for the WPIAL, it's, Baronic and Carter Green are the 2 guys that you could say, hey, these are our best chances to get WPIAL guys through. Question is where can they finish, and can they be in that conversation? I think they can. I think they can get, definitely in the top 6. Just the question is where they could finish. And that District 6 being deep definitely makes it challenging. So, but the good thing for a guy like Baronic, he's not going to he runs an opening match against Brad Miller, the 5th place finisher of District 6. But I think, he wins that one. If he can get the win over Lingenfelter, he gets his ticket to Hershey. Carter Green, meanwhile, he's gonna have to beat Ewing. And if he doesn't beat Ewing, he may have to beat a guy like Carter Quick. So
yep.
He's got a more challenging route to go. He's gonna have to beat, like I said, either Ewing or Quick. But for Baronic, I like his path to at least get into that top 6.
As you said it, like, the more I'm thinking about it, this may be the deepest bracket for District 6. District 6 is loaded here at 285, and I say that being that it's heavyweight, it's a little bit surprising, but District 6, as you said, is loaded here, and District 5 is not bad. So why in other weight classes with these 3 from the WPIAL, I would say would definitely make the state tournament. I'm not so sure this time, just because of how deep both those districts are.
So that's AA for you, and obviously they're off this upcoming weekend. So it's 2 weeks, a little less than 2 weeks from today is when they'll get back on the mats, and hopefully, for all going forward here, all the WPIAL wrestlers are able to get healthy to be able to wrestle for because we had the WPIAL tournament, Jeff. Obviously, I know you cover more of the state, but from my side of it, hey, I'm just rooting for everybody to be healthy now and get as many people as we can through to the state tournament next in 2 weeks at the Southwest Regional. Looking ahead, though, for this upcoming weekend, AAA gets on the mats as they have their 4 section tournaments. And the 4 sites for Section 1, it'll be at Kiski area. Section 2, it'll be at Hempfield area. Section 3 will be at North Allegheny, and Section 4 will be at Peters Township. And Jeff, I know you've got some tidbits, some notes. The wrestlers and where they're going at has not been released yet to this point, so we don't have any seeds or anything like that. But I know you got some news and notes to pass along.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, there's going to be a lot of there's going to be some changes and some shifts for sure. Greg, before we go forward, can you please remind folks how many make it out of the sections to districts? Because that's if I have 9 people have asked me, I think thus far today. So can you put everyone's mind at ease?
4 top 4 from the sections go on to the WPIAL for a beautiful 16-man bracket.
you love your 16-man brackets, don't you?
Well, for years, Jeff, I've always said this because they always used to take 5, and then they'd have a 20-man bracket, and then the first round of those that preliminary round, it was a win and you advance, you lose, you're done.
Yeah.
So it was like I never understood it though. Like, why have those 4 kids, and then where are they going? They're feeding right into the top 4 seeds. Rarely did anyone win those matches. I never saw anyone who finished 5th place ever advance on to the top 4 in the state to go on the state. So I never could understand why they did 5. So, but I'm glad it's now 4. Beautiful 16-man bracket. It's perfect.
It's just the way Greg likes it. So some of those weight classes that we're going to talk about, the guys are coming down to weight. Some guys are going up. So Maddox Shaw from Thomas Jefferson, there was a lot of questions of whether he was going to make it back down to 126 after getting to the Powerade finals. He is down to 126. He actually wrestled at 126. His weight is down. So he is going to go at 126. The question that a lot of people had was, what was Cannon Mack going to do at 13, 20, and 26? So Jacob Haupt from Cannon Mack was descending down to 13. He weighed 119. He actually weighed 116.3. And now, after the team state tournament, he cannot go down to 113 because the second day of team states counted towards his descent plan. He weighed in at 119.2. So he can now not go down to 113. Jacob's very upset about this. We're gonna be releasing something here probably tomorrow with all sides and all parties to talk about it. But Jacob's not happy about this. He was told that this is a Jared Verkleeren situation all over again.
Yes.
Bell Vernon situation where they thought that this was gonna the second day of the team tournament didn't count towards the descent plan. And it actually did. So now his descent is screwed up and he can't go down to 113. Andrew Binney, same case. He was going to go 120. He was going to drop from 126 to 120. That can no longer happen. He weighed in too heavy on the second day of team states. So there's a lot of talk about this right now. And, it's unfortunate for Jacob Haupt, who's a senior. I think he would have been in the mix for a WPIAL title at 113. And now up at 120, he's, got the likes of Vinny Kilkeary and Troy Homan. Let's not to say that Jacob Haupt's not going to compete well at 120. I just know he was looking forward to getting a shot at 113. So tough situation all around. But we're going to have more information on that as we get all parties involved and get a statement from everybody. We'll be able to talk more about that. But those are some of the weight changes that I noticed right off the bat. Luke Dunlop from South Fayette is down to 113. There was that log jam that we talked about at the county tournament, 113, 120, 126. He's going to be down at 113 for the section tournament. Brian Finnerty's going up to 215. So that's to me a big move. That changes 215 because you have Cole Waitman, who's back from Bell Vernon. Now you have Corey Borio, who's up there. He has a 1-0 loss to Finnerty this year. So Finnerty moves into the second ranked position after Waitman. And I think he can certainly win that match with Cole Waitman, considering Cole is not quite, in season shape, so to speak, Greg.
Yeah, and you talked about 113. Also, you have Kai Sheptick, Waynesburg, who's not going to be able to give it a go. So you look at Jacob Haupt, a guy who was looking at potentially dropping down, and you had Sheptick being one of those guys that could take one of the 4 spots, and now he's out. So really, 113 just split even more wide open.
Yeah, with Sheptick out as well. Joe Simone is also not going to be going at 120. And that's mainly a weight thing. You know, he's had a really hard time getting down to weight. So that's just tough for him and for Waynesburg to lose those two guys. Bodie Morgan's back in the lineup for Trinity. He had a great freshman year last year, and this year he had been out up until a week ago. So he's back for Trinity. He's at 160. He had 2 losses. He lost to Chase Kranitz and he lost to Gavin Beck from Franklin Regional. So those are tough guys to come back to wrestle in. And Tyler Chappell, Seneca Valley Jr., was 3rd in the state last year. He recently committed to Pitt. He committed on Saturday to University of Pittsburgh. So, not surprising because Pitt is a team that I know he's been close with. But I definitely thought Bucknell was in the running for sure because obviously your older brother goes there. But Tyler Chappell staying close to home, going to Pitt, I think that's a big get for them. So yeah, it's going to be fun. And Greg, I hate to do this to you because I like you a lot, but we all kind of played a joke on you. And I'm going to put up an image on the screen. This is Hollywood Warnock. This is, you can't see it, Greg, because you don't see it, but
wow.
You and the Hollywood sign. So the top 4 don't make it to the WPIAL tournament, Greg. It's the top 5. So I know you.
Is it?
Yes.
Oh.
So I know this is sad for you, for Hollywood Warnock, but actually the top 5 do go. So it's not April Fool's yet, but
that is sad.
It is sad. So that's why I wanted to put up
4, not gonna lie.
So one of our favorite listeners from across the state, who listens every week, he sent me this, and we thought it'd be a fun thing to play a joke on you. But yes, it's actually the top 5. So your perfect 16 bracket gets screwed up. I apologize to you, but I had to drop that on you. I'm sorry, Greg. I should have warned you.
Well, you messed up my last name is Warnock, jerk.
Well, that's kind of the point, because remember how when we did the War Up and we had the intro, remember how Jason Bryant said Greg Warnock? You remember that? And it was pronounced wrong. And yes,
I don't remember it.
And I wanted to make fun of you a little bit more. Now I just feel
Is
bad.
it really the top 5? I swear it was top 4.
It's 100% the top 5. It's 100% because I just wrote an article on the Road to Hershey for all the different districts and sections, and it's highlighted that the top 5 are going. So yeah, it's 100% the top 5 in AAA.
I never said I was perfect. I definitely didn't have that right then. So I apologize.
I'm just saying your perfect 16-man bracket gets screwed up now. I'm like, what's he gonna do?
It doesn't make sense to me. Can you logically tell me why you would send 5?
No, I don't. No, I don't. I mean, it's this. No, I can't. But I'm just. That's the way it is, Greg. It's just the way it is.
I know it's the way it is, but you have all those connections. I just want
I don't have
your logic. Your
don't have
logical
many
explanation
Greg.
on why you would send 5 to a tournament where you can only advance 4 the next round.
Yeah, why is the PIAA state tournament from 16 to 20? You can make the same argument, So now it's the same analogy, right? I mean,
how is that the same analogy?
I'm not saying it's the same exact analogy, but it's this. The question remains the same. Why are you sending 5 from each section to the WPIAL tournament? Why are you sending 20 to the state tournament instead of 16? Has any of those 4 extra made it to the top 8? Well, I mean, some of them have, yes, but
yeah, absolutely. I mean, the WPIAL's has
maybe a top 5 sneaks through, man. I'm gonna find somebody this year top 5.
It doesn't make sense. To me, because
you're shooting the messenger, bro. I just wanted to play
you're the one who's tight with everybody in wrestling, so I'm just wondering. I mean, we always talk about how Jeff Upson gets to
Phil
see
Mary
the
won't return my calls. Bill Lewis, he won't even text me back. I don't know who you're talking about, man. I got no pool.
Yeah. Well, anyway, Jeff, you mentioned Joe Simone. So is he gonna he and Xander Faturos going to battle it out for 26, or is it just Faturos a spot?
Yeah, so it's Faturos. Faturos has 126. Simone's just gonna focus on keeping
Next year.
Yeah, I mean, essentially, yeah. So it's same with Kai Sheptic. I mean, they all tried to stick it out for the team, but they had a number of wrestle offs at 26, and it's just the way it is, right? So unfortunately, he won't be able to go, and I think we saw that when he was down at 120. Just he didn't look himself. He looked sucked down, right? And talking to Kyle Sheptic, Joe Simone. It's very rare that wrestlers will wrestle below what they wrestled at the Super 32. He wrestled 26 at the Super 32, where they give you 5 pounds, and you have that same day weigh-in, and you're right there. Or I'm sorry, they don't give you 5 pounds, but you have that weigh-in early. So I just don't think it was the right fit for him. So it's just the way it is.
Well, on that note, wrestling begins on 9:30 on Saturday for the 4 section tournaments. So make sure you check that out, and we'll be back next week to recap. Any other final thoughts, Jeff, you have as we wrap up? It's been a long show.
No, I just feel really good about that trick we played on you about the top 4 versus the top 5. I'm sorry. I know you're not. I know you're not smiling, but I thought it was kind of funny.
Yeah, I mean, you're hilarious. Why don't you go, go on a show or go on a stage or something, and tell some more jokes.
I think I could do stand-up comedy. I'm actually kind of funny, and I'm kind of a condescending, but sometimes I feel like I can be funny. And that to me, it was just funny because I had the Hollywood sign. You can't see it, but I had the Hollywood sign with your last name on it. So like, Hollywood. Greg here wants to see only the top 4 when in reality it's the top 5. So, and I also got like 4 text messages from coaches during that. They're like, you do know it's top 5, right? So shout out Kevin Wildrick,
I think you
Bill
did,
Swing,
actually. I think you probably
Bill
had
Evans.
to go look it up yourself.
Greg, I just wrote an article on the road to Hershey, and I highlighted how many make it out of each. You're right. I for sure had to double check when I did this.
I for sure thought it was 4. I'm
It's
not going to lie.
It's all right. When I'm wrong, which I'm wrong a lot, you can make a big deal out of it, all right?
Well,
you can make fun of me for my pronunciations. I can't pronounce. I screwed up. I can't even pronounce anybody's name correctly. So you can get me on that all you want.
It's kind of funny you mentioned that because I was just going to say something about that, but including a few you had tonight, but I let those go because I don't like to call you out.
I always pronounce it. Look, that's nothing new. That's like the sun came up and Jeff, butchered somebody's name. I mean, sorry. It's at least I know. I know that's my weak spot. Can't do it. I'm a cop. I'm not a Rhodes Scholar.
Well, with that being said, we want to thank Ambrose Boni for joining us on the show. Congratulations to him on his Outstanding Wrestler Award. And make sure you join us next week. We'll recap the 4 section tournaments where we preview the AAA WPIAL tournament. Where how many they take out of the WPIAL tournament this stage?
I don't know.
Jeff?
We're gonna have to go double check. We're gonna have to double check, right?
Yeah, I think we're gonna have
all
to
the
make
5
sure
coaches just text me. They know. They're like you're giving false information or fake news. I'm like that's.
Yep.
Sorry.
And I'm just going to wonder how many of those 5th place guys advance to the state tournament in 2 weeks.
Stop.
So we'll see. But with that being said, for Jeff Upson, I'm Greg Warnock. Thanks for watching and listening in to War Up on WPIAL.